Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to another bone-chilling journey through the world of the unknown. If you're new here, make yourself comfortable, grab a warm drink, dim the lights, and prepare for a night of eerie tales and whispered legends. This channel is dedicated to exploring the most terrifying moments ever captured on camera, delving into the dark and mysterious events that have left even the bravest souls shaken. Tonight, we turn our attention to the realm of the truly shocking and horrifying, those rare, unfiltered glimpses into the supernatural, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying moments that were never meant to be seen. From the eerie silence of an abandoned asylum caught on a night vision feed to the grainy footage of a shadowy figure moving through a haunted forest, the world is filled with moments that defy logic and reason. These are not just stories passed down through generations or whispered in the dark. They are real, tangible recordings that have left investigators, skeptics, and everyday people questioning everything they thought they knew about the world around them. Whether it's the sound of a child whispering from an empty room, the sudden appearance of a ghostly figure caught on a security camera, or the unsettling footage of a person seemingly possessed by something beyond comprehension, these moments have left an indelible mark on those who have witnessed them. Tonight, we will be diving deep into the most infamous and spine-chilling moments ever recorded. Events that have sent chills down the spines of millions and sparked endless debates about the nature of reality itself. From the infamous Ohio Asylum footage, where a group of paranormal investigators captured something they could never explain, to the harrowing security camera recordings from Japan that show a man vanishing in front of his own eyes, each of these moments is a testament to the power of fear and the unknown. We'll also explore the disturbing phenomenon of shadow people, caught on camera, the eerie footage of a woman who claims to have been visited by a demon in the middle of the night, and the chilling home videos that seem to capture something lurking just beyond the edge of perception. As we journey through these shocking moments, we'll hear first-hand accounts from those who were there, analyze the footage frame by frame, and examine the theories that attempt to explain what happened, or, in some cases, why it can't be explained at all. Whether you believe in the supernatural or remain a steadfast skeptic, one thing is certain: these moments will leave you questioning what lies just beyond the veil of reality. So, if you're ready to step into the shadows of the unknown and uncover the secrets hidden within these haunting recordings, press play and join us on this spine-chilling expedition. But be warned, once you see what we're about to show you, you may never look at the world the same way again. The Ohio Asylum footage, a chilling encounter caught on camera, one of the most infamous and deeply unsettling pieces of footage ever captured in the world of paranormal investigation, comes from the abandoned halls of the Ohio Asylum, a long-closed psychiatric hospital that has become synonymous with horror and tragedy. Known for its dark history of unethical treatments and patient disappearances, the asylum has long been a hotspot for paranormal enthusiasts seeking proof of the afterlife. But nothing could have prepared the world for the infamous footage recorded by a team of investigators in 2017, a recording that has since become one of the most debated and feared pieces of evidence in the realm of the supernatural. The footage begins innocently enough, night vision cameras capturing the team as they explore the crumbling corridors of the asylum. The investigators, seasoned professionals with years of experience, are seen discussing their findings, pointing out areas of interest and setting up equipment. The atmosphere is tense but controlled, the only sounds being their voices and the occasional creak of the old building settling. Then, without warning, the footage takes a turn for the horrifying. A faint whisper, almost imperceptible at first, can be heard in the background. At first, the investigators dismiss it, assuming it is interference, or simply the wind moving through the broken windows. But as the minutes pass, the whispering grows louder, more distinct. Words begin to form, pleading, desperate, and unintelligible. The team stops in their tracks, listening intently as the voices swell in volume, filling the corridor with an eerie cacophony of suffering. Some of the investigators attempt to communicate, asking if anyone is there, but the whispers continue unabated. Then, without explanation, one of the cameras captures something that defies all logic. In the far corner of the hallway, a shadowy figure appears, tall, gaunt, and motionless. Its form seems to blend into the darkness, as if it is not entirely present in the physical world. The investigators, visibly shaken, shine their flashlights toward the figure, but instead of illuminating it, the light seems to be absorbed, swallowed by the darkness. The figure does not move, does not react, it simply watches. The footage cuts to static for a few seconds before returning, and when it does, the corridor is empty. The whispering has stopped. The team, now visibly terrified, scrambles to gather their equipment and flee the asylum, their voices filled with panic and disbelief. The final seconds of the recording capture one investigator turning back for just a moment, and in that fleeting glance, something can be seen, just outside the frame of the camera, just beyond the reach of the flashlight beam. Whatever it was, it remains unseen, but the fear in the investigator's eyes speaks volumes. Since its release, the Ohio Asylum footage has been the subject of intense scrutiny and debate. Skeptics argue that it is nothing more than clever editing or a hoax designed to generate clicks and views. Others insist that it is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence yet of an intelligent, malevolent presence trapped within the walls of the asylum. Regardless of its origins, one thing is certain: the footage has left an indelible mark on those who have seen it, and the asylum continues to draw thrill seekers and paranormal investigators who hope, or dread, to witness the same terrifying encounter for themselves. The Japanese subway train incident. A disappearance caught on camera among the most baffling and deeply unsettling cases of unexplained phenomena ever recorded is the infamous Japanese subway train incident, a real-time footage capture that has left experts, investigators, and everyday witnesses alike questioning the very fabric of reality. The event took place in the early hours of the morning in Tokyo, where surveillance cameras inside a packed subway car captured something that defies all known explanations. What begins as a routine security feed soon spirals into a nightmare, as one of the passengers appears to vanish before the eyes of everyone on board. The footage, which has since gone viral across multiple platforms, shows a crowded subway car during rush hour. The camera angle, positioned near the ceiling, captures the usual chaos of commuters jostling for space, checking their phones, and trying to catch a few moments of rest before reaching their destinations. At approximately 5:43 a.m., the train slows as it approaches a station, and the doors open to allow passengers to disembark. Nothing unusual occurs, until a man standing near the center of the car begins to act strangely. At first, he seems to be looking around anxiously, his body twitching as though he is experiencing some kind of internal struggle. His hands grip the metal pole in front of him tightly, his knuckles turning white. Then, without warning, he begins to fade. Not in the sense of stepping out of frame or moving away, but in the literal sense. His body begins to dissolve, as if his very form is being erased from existence. His face contorts in what appears to be terror, his mouth opening in a silent scream. The other passengers, seemingly unaware of what is happening, continue their routines, oblivious to the horror unfolding mere feet away. The footage shows the man's body slowly vanishing, starting from the extremities and working inward. His legs disappear first, then his torso, and finally his head, until there is nothing left but empty space where he once stood. The entire process takes less than 30 seconds, and by the time the train reaches the next station, there is no sign of him, no belongings, no footprints, no indication that he had ever been there at all. The footage ends with the camera panning to the empty space where he had been, the eerie silence of the security feed amplifying the horror of what has just occurred. In the days following the incident, investigators attempted to track down the missing man, combing through passenger manifests and conducting interviews with those who had been on the train. However, no one could confirm his identity, and no one seemed to remember seeing him disappear. Some claimed they had felt an inexplicable chill in the air around the time of the event, while others described a brief moment of disorientation, as though reality itself had momentarily shifted. Despite extensive efforts, the man was never found, and the footage remains one of the most inexplicable and terrifying pieces of evidence in the annals of unexplained phenomena. Skeptics have offered various theories, ranging from technical malfunctions to elaborate hoaxes, but none have been able to fully explain the footage. Some suggest that the man may have suffered from a rare neurological condition that caused him to experience a dissociative episode, but this does not account for his complete disappearance. Others speculate that the footage is a result of a glitch in the camera's software, though forensic analysis has failed to find any evidence of digital manipulation. The most chilling theory, however, is that the man was taken by something that exists beyond the boundaries of our understanding, something that does not belong to this world. Regardless of the explanation, the Japanese subway train incident remains one of the most disturbing cases of unexplained disappearance ever recorded. The footage continues to circulate online, drawing new viewers who hope, or dread, to uncover the truth behind what happened. And as long as the mystery remains unsolved, the footage serves as a haunting reminder that there are forces in this world that defy logic, that lurk just beyond the edges of perception, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The shadow people, a terrifying pattern across the globe. Among the most frequently reported and deeply unsettling paranormal phenomena are the so-called shadow people, dark, humanoid figures that appear without warning, often in the peripheral vision of those who claim to see them. Unlike traditional ghostly apparitions, which often take the form of recognizable human figures, shadow people are typically described as featureless, amorphous silhouettes that seem to blend into the darkness around them. Witnesses report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread in their presence, often accompanied by a sensation of being watched, followed by an abrupt disappearance of the entity, as if it had never been there at all. What makes shadow people particularly chilling is the consistency of the reports across different cultures and time periods. From ancient folklore to modern-day security camera footage, the descriptions remain eerily similar. Many claim that these entities appear as tall, thin figures with no discernible facial features, while others describe them as cloaked beings with glowing red eyes. Some report that the figures move unnaturally, gliding rather than walking, while others insist that they vanish the moment they are directly looked at. The phenomenon has been documented in numerous countries, from the United States to the United Kingdom, and from Japan to Brazil, suggesting that this is not merely a product of regional mythology, but something far more universal. One of the most widely shared pieces of footage depicting a shadow person was captured in 2016 by a security camera in a residential neighborhood in Oregon. The grainy black and white recording shows a quiet suburban street at night, with nothing out of the ordinary, until a dark, human-shaped figure steps into frame from behind a tree. The figure stands motionless for several seconds before slowly turning its head toward the camera. Though its face is completely obscured, the sensation of being watched is palpable. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure vanishes, leaving behind only the empty street and the lingering sense that something was never meant to be seen. Another harrowing example comes from a family in rural Pennsylvania who installed infrared cameras in their home after experiencing a series of unexplained disturbances. One night, the footage captured a dark, humanoid figure standing at the foot of the parents' bed. Unlike typical intruders, the figure did not move, did not breathe, and did not react to the camera's presence. When the husband turned on the lights, the figure was gone, leaving behind only the lingering sense of an unseen presence. The footage, analyzed by multiple experts, showed no signs of digital tampering, and the family, deeply shaken, eventually moved out of the house, refusing to return. Theories abound regarding the nature of shadow people, with some believing them to be residual hauntings, imprints of past traumas or tragic events that replay endlessly in certain locations. Others suggest that they may be interdimensional beings, entities that exist in a parallel reality that occasionally bleeds into our own. There are even those who believe that shadow people are not spirits at all, but rather manifestations of the subconscious mind, distortions created by the brain under extreme stress or sleep deprivation. However, none of these explanations fully account for the consistency of the sightings or the sheer terror they inspire in those who encounter them. Despite the skepticism surrounding these claims, one thing remains undeniable: shadow people continue to appear in footage, in personal testimonies, and in the darkest corners of the human psyche. Whether they are the remnants of the dead, visitors from another dimension, or something far worse, one thing is certain: those who have seen them will never forget the experience, and the mystery of shadow people remains one of the most terrifying enigmas in the world of the paranormal. The demon in the bedroom. A terrifying home video capture. Among the most disturbing pieces of footage ever recorded in the realm of the paranormal is the infamous demon in the bedroom video, a grainy, low resolution home recording that captures what many believe to be a demonic entity manifesting in the middle of the night. The footage, allegedly filmed in 2019 by a young woman named Emily Carter, has since become one of the most debated and feared pieces of evidence in the world of supernatural investigations. Unlike staged horror films or heavily edited viral videos, this footage appears disturbingly real, with no signs of digital manipulation and an eerie authenticity that has left even seasoned paranormal experts shaken. The video begins with a standard time-lapse of Emily's bedroom, captured by a smartphone placed on her nightstand. The timestamp indicates that it is just past midnight, and the room is illuminated only by the faint glow of a digital clock and the soft hum of the air conditioner. Emily, seen lying in bed, appears to be asleep, her breathing steady and rhythmic. For the first few minutes, nothing unusual occurs, just the occasional rustle of sheets and the sound of distant traffic outside. Then, at precisely 2:37 a.m., the footage takes a turn for the horrifying. The first sign of something wrong is the sudden flickering of the digital clock's display. The numbers jump erratically, flashing between different times before settling on a frozen, unreadable state. At the same time, the air in the room seems to grow heavier, as if the very atmosphere is thickening. Emily stirs in her sleep, shifting uncomfortably as if sensing something unseen. Then, just outside the frame of the camera, a faint whisper begins, a soft, unintelligible murmur that gradually grows louder, more insistent. As the whispering intensifies, the camera captures a slow, creeping darkness spreading from the corner of the room. At first, it appears to be nothing more than a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the furniture. But as the darkness expands, it takes on a defined shape, a towering, humanoid figure with elongated limbs and a featureless face. The entity hovers at the foot of the bed, its form flickering between visibility and obscurity, as if it is struggling to maintain its presence in the physical world. Emily begins to toss and turn more violently, her breathing quickening as if caught in a nightmare. Then, without warning, she sits bolt upright in bed, her eyes wide with terror. The moment she does, the figure lunges forward, its movements impossibly fast, its form twisting and contorting in ways that defy human anatomy. The camera captures Emily letting out a muffled scream before the footage abruptly cuts to static. When the video resumes a few seconds later, the room is silent. The digital clock has returned to normal, the air feels lighter, and Emily is seen lying back down, seemingly asleep once more. There is no sign of the entity, no indication that anything unusual had occurred, except for one chilling detail. On the edge of the camera's frame, just visible before the footage ends, is a faint, smoky residue lingering near the foot of the bed, as if something had been there and had only just vanished. Since its release, the demon in the bedroom video has sparked widespread controversy and speculation. Skeptics argue that the footage is nothing more than a hoax, citing inconsistencies in the lighting and the lack of corroborating evidence. Others, however, insist that it is one of the most compelling pieces of proof yet of an intelligent, malevolent presence invading the private space of an unsuspecting victim. Regardless of its origins, one thing is certain: the footage has left an indelible mark on those who have seen it, and the question remains, was Emily truly alone in her room that night? The abandoned hospital hallway. A ghostly figure caught on security camera, one of the most disturbing pieces of footage ever recorded in the world of paranormal investigation, comes from the security cameras of an abandoned hospital in Michigan. The footage, captured in 2016, shows a long, dimly lit hallway in the hospital's basement, a place known for its dark history of unexplained deaths and alleged hauntings. At first glance, the footage appears unremarkable, showing nothing more than the empty corridor stretching into darkness. But as the minutes tick by, something inexplicable begins to unfold. The camera pans slowly, scanning the hallway in low-resolution black and white footage. The only sounds are the faint hum of the security system and the occasional creak of the old building settling. Then, at precisely 3:14 a.m., a figure appears at the far end of the hallway. The Forest Demon. A terrifying encounter in the woods. Among the most chilling pieces of footage ever captured in the wild is the infamous Forest Demon video, a disturbing and unexplained recording that has left experts and paranormal investigators baffled. Taken in 2018 by a group of hikers in the dense forests of Northern California, the footage shows what appears to be a towering, humanoid figure emerging from the trees before vanishing into the darkness. Unlike typical blurry, inconclusive ghost footage, this recording is strikingly clear, capturing every eerie detail of the encounter in full daylight. The video begins with the hikers setting up camp near a secluded trail, unaware that their journey is about to take a terrifying turn. The group, consisting of 4 friends, had been documenting their trip for a travel vlog, capturing scenic shots of the towering redwoods and the peaceful forest surroundings. As they settle near a small clearing, one of the hikers, Alex, decides to film a short clip of the forest path, panning the camera slowly from left to right. At first, nothing unusual is visible, just the dense foliage and the gentle rustling of leaves in the wind. But then, just as Alex is about to lower the camera, something catches his eye. Off in the distance, partially obscured by the trees, a tall, gaunt figure emerges from the shadows. The entity stands motionless at first, its form blending into the darkness of the forest. It is difficult to make out specific details, but its height is immediately apparent. It towers well above 6 feet, its limbs unnaturally long and thin. As the camera zooms in slightly, the figure tilts its head toward the hikers, revealing what appears to be a face, completely featureless, save for 2 glowing red eyes that seem to pierce through the screen. The footage captures the group's immediate reaction, shocked gasps, frantic whispers, and the unmistakable sound of someone backing away in fear. Alex, still holding the camera, begins to lower it, as if trying to convince himself that what he is seeing is nothing more than a trick of the light. But then, as if sensing that it has been noticed, the figure moves. It takes a single, deliberate step forward, its movements eerily smooth, almost unnatural. The red eyes remain locked onto the camera for just a moment longer before the entity suddenly vanishes, disappearing into the trees as if it had never been there at all. The remaining footage shows the hikers in a state of complete panic, scrambling to pack up their gear and leave the area as quickly as possible. Their voices are filled with disbelief, their hands shaking as they fumble with their belongings. One of the hikers, visibly shaken, insists that they must have imagined the entire thing, but the footage tells a different story, one that remains unexplained to this day. Since its release, the Forest Demon video has sparked widespread debate among paranormal experts, skeptics, and everyday viewers. Some argue that it is a hoax, citing inconsistencies in the lighting and the lack of corroborating evidence from nearby trails. Others suggest that the figure may have been a lost hiker or even an elaborate costume, though no such individuals were reported missing in the area at the time. However, the most chilling theory, that the figure was something beyond human, remains the most widely believed explanation. The haunted mirror, a terrifying reflection caught on camera. One of the most deeply unsettling pieces of footage ever captured in the world of the paranormal is the infamous haunted mirror video, a disturbing recording that appears to show a second, unseen reflection lurking just beyond the surface of a seemingly ordinary mirror. Unlike traditional ghostly apparitions that manifest in open space, this footage presents something far more unnerving, a presence that exists within the glass itself, watching, waiting, and seemingly aware of being observed. The footage was recorded in 2020 by a college student named Sarah, who lived alone in a small apartment on the outskirts of Boston. Sarah had recently begun experiencing strange occurrences, unexplained noises, cold spots, and the sensation of being watched when she was alone. Determined to document what was happening, she set up a stationary camera to record her bedroom at night, hoping to capture any unusual activity. What she got was something she could never have anticipated. The video begins with Sarah sitting in front of her vanity mirror, brushing her hair before bed. The room is dimly lit, illuminated only by the soft glow of a desk lamp. For the first few minutes, nothing unusual occurs, just the sound of the brush moving through her hair and the occasional rustle of fabric as she shifts in her seat. Then, at precisely 1:17 a.m., something strange begins to happen. As Sarah continues brushing her hair, the camera captures a subtle distortion in the mirror's reflection. At first, it is barely noticeable, a slight flicker, as if the lighting had momentarily shifted. But then, as the seconds pass, the distortion becomes more pronounced. In the reflection, a second figure begins to emerge, standing just behind Sarah, its form partially obscured by hers. The entity, which appears to be female, mirrors Sarah's movements with an eerie delay, as if it is not entirely synchronized with the real world. Sarah, seemingly unaware of what is happening in the reflection, continues her routine. But as the figure becomes more distinct, its presence grows more unsettling. Its face is pale and elongated, its eyes wide with an expression of quiet horror. Unlike Sarah, who is fully awake and alert, the entity in the mirror appears to be in a state of distress, its mouth slightly open as if trying to speak but unable to make a sound. Then, without warning, the entity moves. While Sarah remains seated, the figure behind her steps forward, pressing its hands against the surface of the mirror as if trying to push through. The moment this happens, the camera captures something truly terrifying. The reflection changes. Instead of showing Sarah and the entity side by side, the mirror now displays only the entity, its hollow eyes locked onto the camera as if it knows it is being watched. Sarah, still oblivious to what is happening behind her, finally notices something wrong. She freezes, her hand hovering mid-brush, her breath catching in her throat. For a brief moment, she and the entity in the mirror lock eyes, before the camera abruptly cuts to static. When the footage resumes, the room is empty. The mirror reflects only Sarah's confused and terrified expression, the entity nowhere to be seen. The entire incident lasts less than a minute, yet it leaves behind a lingering sense of dread that has haunted those who have viewed the footage ever since. Since its release, the haunted mirror video has sparked widespread debate and speculation. Skeptics argue that the footage is nothing more than a glitch or a hoax, citing inconsistencies in the lighting and the lack of corroborating evidence. Others, however, insist that it is one of the most compelling pieces of proof yet of an intelligent, malevolent presence existing within the boundaries of the physical world. Regardless of its origins, one thing is certain: the footage has left an indelible mark on those who have seen it, and the question remains, was Sarah truly alone in her room that night? The elevator that shouldn't exist, a terrifying discovery in a high-rise building. Among the most chilling pieces of footage ever captured in the realm of the paranormal is the infamous elevator that shouldn't exist video, a disturbing recording that appears to show an elevator door opening to reveal something that defies all logic and reason. The footage, allegedly recorded in 2019 by a security camera in a high-rise apartment building in Chicago, has since become one of the most debated and feared pieces of evidence in the world of supernatural investigations. Unlike typical ghostly apparitions or shadow figures, this footage presents an entirely different kind of horror, one that challenges the very fabric of reality itself. The video begins with a standard security feed of a quiet hallway on the 14th floor of the building. The timestamp indicates that it is just after 3 a.m., and the corridor is dimly lit, with only the soft glow of the emergency lights illuminating the space. The hallway appears completely empty, with no movement or activity. Then, without warning, the elevator doors slide open. At first glance, there is nothing unusual about the scene, just a standard elevator opening at an odd hour. But as the doors widen, something deeply unsettling becomes apparent. The interior of the elevator is not what one would expect. Instead of the usual mirrored walls and numbered buttons, the cabin appears to be made of an unfamiliar, dark material that seems to absorb the light. More disturbingly, the floor of the elevator does not appear to be level with the hallway. It is significantly lower, as if the elevator has descended into something far deeper than the building's actual structure allows. As the camera continues to record, a figure steps into view. The individual, dressed in a dark coat and carrying a backpack, hesitates for a moment before stepping forward. The footage shows them reaching out, pressing the button to close the elevator doors, but before the mechanism engages, something happens. The interior of the elevator begins to flicker, briefly revealing something beyond the expected confines of the cabin. For just a fraction of a second, the camera captures what appears to be an endless void, a space that extends infinitely downward, with no visible bottom or structure. The screaming house, a terrifying sound caught on camera. Among the most disturbing pieces of footage ever recorded in the realm of the paranormal is the infamous Screaming House video, a deeply unsettling recording that appears to capture the sound of an unseen entity screaming in agony from within the walls of an abandoned home. Unlike traditional ghostly apparitions or shadow figures, this footage presents a different kind of horror, one that is purely auditory, yet no less terrifying. The sound, described by those who have heard it as the most bone-chilling scream ever recorded, has left investigators, paranormal experts, and everyday listeners alike shaken to their core. The footage was recorded in 2018 by a group of urban explorers who had ventured into a long-abandoned farmhouse in rural Tennessee. The house, long rumored to be haunted due to local legends of a tragic fire that claimed the lives of an entire family in the 1950s, had been left untouched for decades. The explorers, equipped with audio and video equipment, intended to document their journey through the crumbling structure in hopes of capturing any unexplained phenomena. What they ended up recording was something far more horrifying than they had anticipated. The video begins with the explorers entering the house, their flashlights casting flickering beams of light across the decaying interior. The walls are covered in soot, remnants of the fire that had supposedly taken place decades earlier. As they move through the house, the group discusses the history of the location, speculating on what might have happened to the family who once lived there. Then, without warning, the footage captures an ear-splitting scream. The sound is unlike anything that has been heard before, raw, guttural, and filled with unimaginable pain. It echoes through the empty halls of the house, reverberating off the walls as if the very building itself is crying out in agony. The explorers freeze in place, their voices filled with panic and disbelief. They frantically search the house, trying to locate the source of the scream, but find nothing, no signs of life, no indication that anyone else was present. The scream, however, does not stop. It continues for nearly a full minute, growing louder and more desperate with each passing second, before abruptly cutting off, leaving behind an eerie silence that is somehow even more terrifying than the scream itself. The footage continues for several more minutes as the explorers attempt to regain their composure, their voices trembling as they discuss what they had just heard. One of them, clearly shaken, insists that they must leave immediately, and the group hastily gathers their equipment and flees the house. The final seconds of the recording capture one of the explorers glancing back at the house one last time, just as the scream begins again, faint but unmistakable, echoing from the empty windows as if something within the walls is still alive, still suffering. Since its release, this screaming house footage has become one of the most debated and feared pieces of evidence in the world of paranormal investigations. Skeptics argue that the sound could be explained by environmental factors, such as wind moving through the damaged structure or the settling of the house's foundation. Others suggest that the footage is nothing more than a hoax, citing inconsistencies in the audio quality and the lack of corroborating evidence. However, the most chilling theory, that the scream belongs to a trapped soul, forever bound to the house by the tragedy that occurred there, remains the most widely believed explanation. Regardless of its origins, one thing is certain: the footage has left an indelible mark on those who have heard it. The sheer terror in the scream, the unnatural way it echoes through the house, and the lingering question of whether it was truly captured on camera continue to haunt those who have viewed the recording. And as long as the mystery remains unsolved, the question lingers: was the house truly empty, or was something still trapped within its walls screaming for help that would never come? The phantom passenger, a terrifying hitchhiker caught on dashcam among the most chilling pieces of footage ever recorded in the realm of the paranormal, is the infamous phantom passenger dashcam video. A disturbing recording that appears to show a ghostly hitchhiker appearing and disappearing without explanation. Unlike traditional ghostly apparitions or shadow figures, this footage presents a different kind of horror, one that blurs the line between reality and the unknown, leaving those who have seen it questioning what truly lies beyond the veil of existence. The footage was recorded in 2021 by a long-haul truck driver named Mark Reynolds, who was driving through a remote stretch of highway in Nevada. The video begins with the dashboard camera capturing the dark, empty road ahead, the headlights cutting through the desert night. Mark, alone in the cab, is heard humming softly to himself, seemingly unaware of what is about to happen. Then, just after midnight, something strange begins to unfold. As Mark drives past a lonely stretch of highway, He notices a figure standing by the roadside, a woman in a white dress, her long hair blowing in the wind. Thinking she is a stranded traveler in need of help, he pulls over and opens the passenger door. The woman, who appears to be in her early 20s, climbs into the cab without a word, her face obscured by the darkness. Mark, thinking nothing of it, asks where she needs to go, but the woman does not respond. The footage shows Mark glancing at her briefly before returning his attention to the road. The woman sits motionless, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her gaze fixed straight ahead. Mark attempts to engage her in conversation, asking if she is okay, but she remains silent. Then, as the minutes pass, something unsettling begins to happen. The temperature in the cab drops drastically, the windows fogging up despite the dry desert air. The radio, which had been playing softly in the background, begins to crackle with static before cutting out completely. Mark, now visibly uneasy, glances at the woman again, only to realize that she is not breathing. Her chest does not rise or fall, her posture remains unnaturally still. A wave of dread washes over him, and he begins to speak to her more urgently, asking if she needs help. Still, she does not respond. Then, just as suddenly as she appeared, she vanishes. The passenger seat is empty, the door still locked from the inside. Mark, now panicking, slams on the brakes and scans the road behind him, but there is no sign of the woman. The footage continues for several more minutes as Mark struggles to comprehend what has just happened. His hands tremble as he grips the steering wheel, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He repeatedly checks the passenger seat, as if hoping to find some sign that the woman had truly been there. But there is nothing, no footprints, no belongings, no indication that she had ever existed at all. Since its release, the Phantom Passenger footage has become one of the most debated and feared pieces of evidence in the world of paranormal investigations. Skeptics argue that the video is nothing more than a hoax, citing inconsistencies in the lighting and the lack of corroborating evidence. Others suggest that the woman may have been a figment of Mark's imagination, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and isolation. However, the most chilling theory, that the woman was not of this world, that she had been something beyond human, remains the most widely believed explanation.